Don't listen to people who don't have your best interest in mind. And number two, know that the word is not impossible, it's inevitable. Envisioning allows you to say, I've won before, because I reflected on that. I did only win once. I've won 12 times or 25 times. Well, I can win again. Be grateful for who you are and be grateful for who you're becoming, because the best is yet to come.
Welcome to the 1 Million Years of Joy podcast. I'm Dr. Andrea Benaker, your host, and my intention is to inspire you to find more joy in your life through the stories from our guests and the science on joy and purpose. Daphne, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. I'm going to call you Dr. Andrea.
So happy to be chatting with you, Daphne. I want to dive into some of the questions. And I know that you have shared a story from your early days where your guidance counselor once told you that girls like you don't go to college. I was wondering if you could share with us what went through your mind in that specific moment and how did you turn that into fuel instead of defeat?
That is a great question. And a lot of young girls don't get to do that, to transform that. But for me, it was an immediate counterintuitive conflict. I kind of made that term up because it happened right away. I was stunned. And I say counterintuitive because my mother always told me, and she raised me on learning, on reading, on math. And I was able to skip first grade because of how much training and teaching she did before I was even, school age. And she told me that as long as I would study well and perform well in school, that I would make it. And so I say it's counterintuitive conflict because this didn't make any sense to me. As a Jamaican immigrant, my mother and father were both Jamaican immigrants, and they came from Jamaica to the United States so that we could all be what we wanted. They were undereducated. They didn't finish high school. My mother cleaned bedpans in hospitals. We had an 800 square foot home that housed 6 people and had 1 bathroom. So we were very poor, or I would say, low income family. And what he said to me was counterintuitive to that because she would say, Daphne, whatever has your mind has you. You can do whatever you want. But I said to myself, well, he's paid the big bucks. He must know better than me what's good for me. So I listened to him. And what he meant was that Black girls should not go to college. I didn't know really why that was until much later. I realized that the titans of industry, the Fords, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, and all that, they were not Black men or did not have Black wives. And so when you think about what the role was of Black women at the time, we made beds, we cleaned houses, we cooked food for the families that we served. And so he never saw a Black person in corporate because Black people are usually maids and whatnot. So that was the whole story behind it. I realized much later. So I went on to Women's Day magazine. I became a secretary right after I graduated from high school of Women's Day magazine. And I've been gifted, if that's the term to use, with what I'll call pattern recognition. So that as I started working as a secretary for the assistant editor of the magazine in downtown Chicago, I saw 2 things, Dr. Andrea. One was that and it was men who were running the women's magazine. It was all men, and the women that were there, we were in the bullpen of the secretarial bullpen. And so the men who were running the show, they weren't talking rocket science type of things. It wasn't technical jargon. They only had a college degree. So I noted that just as picking up the pattern. And then number 2, I was a terrible secretary. I didn't take shorthand and typing in high school to become someone's secretary. I took it so that I could take great notes in college and that I could transcribe them and have just up to the minute information that the professor was teaching. So I learned that lesson. And so I realized at that moment, after a month or so in that role, I said, I should not be a secretary. I should have a secretary. And that allowed me to turn that negative disinformation, disempowerment kind of an attitude that he had that he was putting onto me. It turned around at that point. So the lessons that I learned from that is, number one, don't believe in limits and disempowering labels that people may put on you. Don't listen to it. You can hear it because that's a function of our ears. We may hear it, but we don't have to listen and pay attention. And we can, deconstruct the impact that people have with those negative words by not focusing on the word impossible, but focus on the word inevitable. Know that it's just a matter of time before you can win at anything. So don't listen to people who don't have your best interest in mind. And number two, know that the word is not impossible, it's inevitable.
How beautiful. I absolutely love your story, and I absolutely love everything you have shared, and the sense of empowerment that indeed we can create our own journey, and and what other people believe, it's really their own story, their own journeys, but we can create our own that can be remarkable.
And they can't put their story on me because that's
Exactly.
their story or that's their vision for me. But you all have to have your vision for yourself. So I went to college. I went to Illinois State University and I got my master's degree, my undergraduate, and my MBA in a total of 4 years. So I got my bachelor's degree in 3 years and I got my MBA in one. Oh my God, I realized that for sure the word was not impossible, the word was inevitable.
And as a result of these realization, and if you look back now on your career, you have had an absolutely incredible career in leadership, in technology, and in transformation. And when you're looking at everything you have achieved professionally and personally, what moments in your journey have brought you the most joy?
That's a phenomenal question. And I love talking about joy. What brought me the most joy is when I realized that my purpose or my mission or my vision for myself was to teach wisdom to the world. I started my career at IBM after I graduated with my MBA. I started my career at IBM in Peoria, Illinois, and I was a systems engineer trainee. So they taught us everything we needed to know about how computers work, programming languages, packages, payroll apps and general ledger apps and all that. So I went from doing that to being what is known as a large systems instructor. That was my first promotion, if you will, was to become an instructor. And when I taught the systems engineers, those that were at a lower level than me, I taught them how to do what I did. And so the light bulbs went off. When people understand something that I'm teaching, when they're better for when they understand more, they can do more, they see more, they can achieve more. Whenever anybody can do that because of my contribution, that is what brings me joy. And I learned that, as I learn, I also want to teach. And I am not here by myself in this world. And therefore, I can't be here only for myself. And part of our job is to be able to bring joy, understanding, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of belonging to other people, and to help pull out the superpower. I talk about superpower a lot in my daily life, to help pull the superpower out of the person who might not have known what their superpower was. So I think that was the first joyous situation, which means that I had a lot of joy because I did a lot of teaching, whether it be customers or employees or even bosses. The second thing was having raised a wonderful son, and although he encountered racism, he's gotten suspended because of people calling him the N word, and he fought to defend himself. He encountered that racism. He graduated from Morehouse College and is a successful entrepreneur living in Jamaica, traveling to the United States with a beautiful grandson that he gave me. And he's providing impact on people's lives. That's also a blessing, and that brings me joy that we raised him well and that he's been listening all along and he has been very successful. So those are two things that bring me joy.
How beautiful. How old is your grandson?
He is 3 years old. He turned 3 in January. So he's just a spectacular boy. His name is Mars, Maarz. And he was named Mars because when he cried when he was first born, he turned red, just like the planet Mars. So we named him Mars.
How beautiful. And what an amazing, amazing age because you can now interact with them. They start talking. They're so hilarious. Wow. Enjoy. Enjoy.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
just, the beauty of life is made available to us when a little, child just simply smiles, right? And you forget everything all of a sudden. It's just pure joy.
Yeah. And they're innocent until we change that.
Yes, indeed. As I'm looking through everything you have shared until now, you have clearly turned obstacles into many opportunities. How can our listeners reframe specific setbacks that they may be exposed to, whether it's linked to self doubt or disappointment, rejection? And how can they begin their journey towards more joy and success based on what you could potentially share with them in terms of key tips?
Yeah, I would say, and this is in my book, Win When They Say You Won't. And, I encourage you guys to take a look at it, get it, because I talk about some of these kinds of things in the book. And it always starts with the mindset. Everything starts with the mindset. And there's a book that I also talk about in my book about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And it's true that whatever has your mind has you, right? And so whether you have a growth mindset, if you are looking at challenges, how you look at the problem is the problem. How you look at the problem is going to determine how you attack that problem. So if you look at the problem or challenges as maybe there's a new way to win with this challenge, or I'm going to learn something different. I'm going to grow into a better executive, or I'm going to find something out of this that I can teach somebody, or I'm going to use this information or this opportunity or this challenge as a way to recover from something that may have happened to me. And so you can look at it from a growth mindset perspective, or you can look at it and say, I'm just going to stay where I am. I'm going to stay stagnant. I'm not going to be curious. I already know what I already know. My brain is not going to get any bigger, right? I'm just going to settle for the status quo. Status quo is pretty safe, right? And so if you look at life that way, your trajectory is going to be set. It's set based on how you look at the problem. And so there are times that we all feel like we're being buried, like somebody is literally taking a shovel and just digging a hole and just putting us in there and we can't breathe. And I think we also need to realize that we are a seed. When you look at how the problem is comes to you or attacks you, and if you feel like a seed, know that seeds love to do one thing. They love to be buried, right? And when they're buried, they go down into, they dig further into the ground. They find the silt, they find the water, they find the nutrients, they find ways to be able to grow, and they get their sea legs, their legs under them. The roots start going down first, and then eventually they come above the ground and they say, I'm back. You thought you had me done. You thought I was finished. But then they grow higher and higher. Then they start to sprout, leaves and branches. And they throw shade on people that might have buried them. But they do more than just throw shade. They also produce fruit. They produce valuable fruit. They produce fruit that helps drive market share. They develop fruit that helps with productivity and efficiency. And so if we look at it in a way of talking about growth and as an opportunity, and eventually I am going to rise above my circumstance. My mother always said to me, Daphne, look above your lived circumstance because you're already here. We're already at this level. So the opportunity is not here. The opportunity is at another level where you can aspire to go to. When I think about, for me, an obstacle, I had breast cancer 4 years ago. I don't know if I ever told you that, but
No.
I had breast cancer right in the middle of my selecting my publisher
Wow.
and selecting like ghostwriters to help me write the book. And I could have quit. I could have just said, I'm not going to worry about the book until I get through this. But I decided that I'm going to use this as a lesson, as an example for others. And it is now chapter 13 in my book. And so it became an opportunity for me to teach other people how not to quit, how to make sure that whatever is in my mind is going to be focused on teaching other people and other women how to win when even cancer may say that you won't, right? And so I think that's the lesson that I would say: turn that self doubt into a stepping stone to walk on it, because it's only a matter of what you say. 75% of what we do is based on what we think. So if we think a certain way, we're going to do something, and then how it turns out, the outcome of that is what it's going to be. So if we don't like the outcomes that we're getting, we got to change how we think. And it's as simple as that. 75% of what happens is because of how we're thinking. A setback is a setup for a comeback. That's what my friend Willie Jolly says. So whenever you have a setback, look at it as a setup for a comeback.
How beautiful.
Mhm.
And how amazing also to hear that you've recovered from your cancer journey and all's good. And what I absolutely love also about everything you have shared, particularly when we are faced with such challenging circumstances, some individuals may end up falling into the trap of thinking of themselves as a victim. And
Yeah.
what I love is that you clearly did not look at yourself as a victim, but rather this is a catalyst for another journey, for another reflection, for another way that you can have a positive impact and not giving up. So how can other individuals that may actually fall into that trap of victimhood come out of it and think about everything that's happening and emerging in their lives as not something that is there to bring you down, but can actually lift you up towards something
Yeah.
greater.
I think there's reflection and there's envision. So reflection, when you think of a car, when and you reflect on what happened. You reflect on how you won, how you almost won, how you lost, how your presentation didn't go well, how you didn't get the job, you didn't join the board, whatever it is. Think of a car and you have that rear view mirror, right, sitting right there. You look in that rearview mirror and it helps you see where you've been. It helps you see, well, how did I drive? That was a pothole I just missed back there. Or, oh, I see the cop as I'm running through the yellow light. I am looking and realizing that I need to be more careful about how I go through traffic. And that rear view mirror, as small as it is, it's not big because you're not expected to stare at it a whole lot, but it's important for you to be able to reflect. You have won before and you will win again. So as you reflect on it, yeah, when did I win? How did I win? What was the context of the conflict? What was the conflict? How impossible did it seem to me back then? Yeah, it seemed pretty darn impossible, right? What behaviors did you exhibit to be able to get through that? That's that reflection. That's that rear view mirror. Were you a strategic person? Did you have a lot of hands-on work that you were doing? Are you an influencer? Are you people oriented? Looking at what your gifts are and what you're really good at will help you to know how you're going to go forward. So that's reflection. You got to look backwards and always kind of get feedback. It's like I look in the mirror and say, does this dress fit me right? That's a reflection. You're reflecting and making sure that the outfit looks appropriate and fits well. The same time, as you have to remember, I won back then, I can win again. So now I have to envision, how am I going to win? What is it going to be that I'm going to do? And it's like looking through a windshield, right, of your car on a clear day, or it might be a very foggy day. But depending on how you're looking through that windshield, it's either going to tell you a lot or it's going to tell you very little, right? Are you going to take the freeway or are you going to take a country road? Are you have to slow down, or can you go really fast because it's a very clear day and you can see forever? And so envisioning is what allows you to transform. And there's no transformation without reimagination or reimagining who you are and where you want to be. So that envisioning allows you to say, I've won before, because I reflected on that. I did only win once. I've won 12 times or 25 times. Well, I can win again. And that envision allows you to say, well, what am I going to win at? What is my superpower that I can really show the company I'm really great at? And I think when you get your purpose, which is really what I'm talking about, which is the understanding and the intersection between passion and joy, what brings you joy, but what are you also good at? You may be happy trying to be a doctor, but if you're lousy at science, you may not make a very good doctor. So you have to be good at something and you also have to have passion over it. And when you have that, then you can do anything as long as your mind reminds you that you've won before. Look in the rearview mirror, you can see the wins that you've done, and also looking through the windshield and say, well, this is where I'm going to go, and I just got to learn how to do it because I learned before, I can learn again.
And when we look at purpose, what is your view on the evolution of purpose throughout our lifetime from your personal experience?
My purpose hasn't changed. How I execute it has changed. So my goal is to teach wisdom to the world. I do that by speaking truth to power. And I do that by empowering the underserved, overlooked, and undervalued. So I didn't always think that cleverly of myself, but I knew I wanted to teach. And then over time, I realized because of how I showed up in corporate America or my skills and my superpowers, I realized, well, how am I going to do that? Speaking truth to power. As I serve on boards right now, I speak truth to the CEOs. I speak truth to the senior leadership team. I speak truth to my board members, whether I take them to learn cybersecurity, or I talked about George Floyd when he was murdered, speaking truth about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm doing that even to this day. So I speak truth to power because they are very powerful people, right? CEOs and board members. But then there are people that aren't so powerful. And my goal and job through my book and through my talks with your great podcast, Dr. Andrea, is to help empower the people who are underserved, undervalued, who believe that they don't have a chance in heck to be able to win, who believe that their whole job is just to say yes. Their whole job is to get in where they can fit in. And they don't have to do that. They should get in where they stand out because everyone has a superpower and it's not all the same. And so I think that's how I did it.
And how do we ensure that on the road to success, we do not sacrifice joy? And how can ambitious professionals balance both the achievement without actually burnout?
In my book, When They Say You Won't, I talk about something that I had to learn the hard way, the 5 F's. I was married and my marriage wasn't going very far, wasn't doing very well. And I didn't know that you have to focus on things. I just thought that you get married and it just works out. And so I only focused on my career. And then I ended up getting a divorce because the marriage wasn't going anywhere and wasn't doing very well. And then I got downsized from IBM. So all that stuff that I was protecting, that career I was protecting, just blew up. So it was at that point when I had a moment and time to reflect on this, I thought about what I call now the 5 F's: your faith, your family, your finances, your fitness, and furthering your career. Those sort of make up who we are. And, I say family, that could include friends. It could include somebody who's your best friend or your neighbor. It's not meant to be an exact science, but it's meant to say that there are categories of your life that are important and they're like glass balls. Sometimes you never want to drop them, but sometimes they may need to turn into a rubber ball because you got focused on something else. And so you look at the health of these. How is your faith? How are your finances? You never want to live longer than your money. You don't want to become a Walmart greeter at 90 years old because you didn't take care of your finances well.
Yeah.
You don't want to worry about the family, or maybe you need to worry about the family because now you have a sick mother coming in to live with you while you also have your two children, right? And that's the whole sandwich generation that we find ourselves living in. So you have to understand that this is who you are. You are faith, you are fitness, not just physical fitness, but emotional fitness, mental fitness. You have to understand this is who you are. So it's about reflecting, thinking about the rearview mirror again and saying, how am I doing? How is my relationship with my husband or my partner? Do we go out every Friday like we said we were going to? Is that still date night? Do I understand my partner's love languages? Do they like, acts of service or whatever the other ones are, time together? And so when you look at all of the fives, you say, at this point in my life where I'm trying to earn all I can, or I'm in school, I'm trying to learn all I can, or maybe I've retired and I'm trying to return all I can back to society. You can then say, which of these five F's am I going to let linger and not pay much attention to right now, because I got this F right here that's really super important. And so you have to make those decisions based on what is important in your life. So know what matters most is the point, and know you can divide it into these five F's. And I have a chart in the book that helps you figure out, well, which of your five F's are mostly in trouble. And just like when you don't perform well at your office, you got to get put on a performance improvement plan. You got to put a performance improvement plan on these F's. If they're not doing very well, and they should be doing well, like your family, you need to put your family on on an improvement plan so that you can improve the relationship that you have, with your family. And I'd say one more thing is that I've made up something called BOMO knows. BO is a bodacious objective. MO is a moderately important objective. And the no is a non-essential objective. If you were to plot that on an X and Y axis and see which ones of those, all those things that you're doing, because you're probably doing too much, all those things that you're doing, which ones of those are going to help you achieve your purpose on one axis, and which ones are more or less easy to do? You can get them done fairly easily. Doing something easy that has nothing to do with your purpose, you may not want to do that. That might become a moderate objective or a non-essential objective. But the bows, you need to have no more than two or three of those bows, bodacious objectives, so that you can focus on your purpose and what's going to matter to you going forward. So that's why I think they can, balance joy with not being frustrated, is being intentional about what's important to you.
I love that. And as a woman that has achieved so much in your life and in your career, could you share with our audience how you decided to plan a family? And you spoke about your son earlier and the joy that he has brought into your life along with your grandson. But some women today choose to prioritize their careers at the expense of building a family. What advice would you have for them given your own journey in building your own family?
It's a relationship conversation between you and your partner. If you are in a relationship, you have to respect that relationship. If you're going into the relationship, you have to have the conversations about what's important to both you and your partner. And if your career is more important than having any child at all, then that needs to be understood. And it might be a deal breaker or it might not. Maybe you didn't talk about it before you got married, and now it's late. You're already married. Sometimes women choose to adopt so that they don't have to worry about taking 6 weeks off or 8 weeks off because they're trying to heal their body they can still take time off, but it's a little different. They can do it without and have people to help them to do that. So I think it's really about having you and your partner make a decision. When my son was in high school, I had an opportunity to get promoted at Johnson and Johnson. They wanted me to be the CIO of Neutrogena, which was out in California, and I was living in New Jersey. And my son, being a sophomore, if I recall, I may not get it right, either sophomore or junior, I said, well, what am I going to do with him? Because if I bring him with me, you never want to take a kid out of high school and to join another high school, because it's just the cliques have already been formed, and it's just tough to get along with new kids when you're a new kid at the high school. But I couldn't leave him behind and leave him with my husband in New Jersey, because my husband was working every day. I knew that he would not take, my son to get his SAT prep and go to all these colleges and all that. I just knew he just didn't have that time to do that. So I turned the opportunity down. And I said, if I am that good, they're going to ask me again, for another opportunity for me to get promoted. So sometimes you just have to say yes to the opportunity, but you've got to bring your partner along with you. Or there are times you have to say no to the opportunity, but you know that if you're that good, it'll come around again for you, because you only have one chance to raise your child. And I know that there are women who regret not having been there for their child. And I remember asking my son, Jared, how can I be a better mom? And then he doesn't know the answer, but he knew that I was trying to be a better mom. And so I said, Jared, how can I be a better mom? And he said, Mommy, you're perfect. But still, I tried to do what I could do, knowing that if I move and leave him, I will never get this chance back. So it's a very intentional and very personal decision that you guys have to make, but never leave your partner out of it.
I absolutely love what you shared, because at the end of the day, when we do leap into parenthood, then we need to ensure that this is a responsibility that we fully embrace. And as you said, sometimes you have to make choices that are benefiting more the family unit or the child, given where they may be, rather than your professional advancement. And those reflections are super, super important for the well being of everyone and the unity of the family at the end. So thank you.
We're just like companies, or we should learn how to be just like companies, because a company has to learn how to be agile. They have things happen to them. Right now, we've got a tariff issue. So now these corporations, these car manufacturers and all that, are having to figure out how are they going to deal with this new situation. And they're not going to cry. They're not going to go pounding on somebody's door, being angry. They're going to look at the data. They're going to assess how the data matches up with where they want to be and where they want to go. And they're going to make some decisions about that. And so it's the same thing with our life. If you find yourself pregnant, then you have to say, okay, what do I do? That's new information. What am I going to do about it? And maybe you can get a nanny, or maybe you take 2 or 3 years off from the office because you waited forever and you're now 50 years old having a baby. That's a miracle. So you can't give that up very easily, and not think that you can't sacrifice your role in your job. And it won't be the end of the world. No matter what you do, it won't kill you. It won't destroy you. And whatever happens, you just have to learn how to be agile. Okay, I see this information. What can I now do with what I have, and how does it relate to where I'm trying to go? And you may be slowed down 3 years, 4 years. Okay, but you now have a beautiful child. Your mentors and sponsors and others who can help you, like, they've been there, they've done that. So look at people that have your similar trajectory, and you can learn from them as well. What did they go through and how do they do it? You're not by yourself either.
Wonderful advice. Thank you. And if we talk now about joy, and if there would be a recipe for joy, what would be the three main ingredients in your view?
A recipe for joy, I would say, and I just talked about this on a plane 2 days ago, that even though I'm retired, I still have a reason to get up every morning. And I believe the first part of joy is having a reason to get up every day that gets you closer to your ambition, to your purpose, to your why, to who are trying to aspire. So that's one. Have a reason to get up every day. Number two, be with people who you love and or respect. When you're with the right people, and I often talk about that there are people who are in your circle, but those same people may or may not deserve to be in your corner. And when you have people that are in your circle that might be in close proximity to you, just because they work with you, they sit across from you, they're in proximity to you, but they may not be in partnership with you just because they're in your circle. When you have somebody that's in partnership with you, they're in your corner. Like a boxer has somebody in their corner when they're fighting, right? And the bell rings, you go to your corner where you get uplifted, you get your cuts addressed, you get somebody to wipe your face and give you water. And so have people that you either love and or respect because they are doing what you want to do, they've done what you want to do, they encourage you on how to do what it is that you're trying to do. So that's number two. I'd say number three is being grateful for where you are in your life, in your community, whatever. Where are you? Be grateful for who you are and be grateful for who you are becoming, because the best is yet to come. Your every day is a learning opportunity to have a growth mindset, and as you learn, you teach. As you learn, you operationalize what you've learned, and you become that much better, and you level up, and you level up again. And so you should be grateful for not only where you are right now, but the fact that you're going to level up and level up and level up, and you're going to be grateful for where you're going because the best is yet to come.
The best is yet to come. I love that.
Yeah.
And when the best actually does arrive in our life and we want to celebrate, what would be a song that would always lift your spirits and that gives you unstoppable energy that you may want to suggest our listeners listen to?
Well, there's a group called the Sounds of Blackness, and they have a song called Optimistic. And it's fast paced, and it talks about you can win as long as you keep your head to the sky. If things around you crumble, you don't have to stumble and fall just because everything else is crumbling. Keep on pushing and don't look back, right? Things will happen, storms will happen, strife will happen. But as you think ahead, you'll be inspired and to reach higher and higher. And so those are some of the words that are in the song. And I said, look back, see where you've been. Don't turn around. Just look in the rearview mirror because you got to get context. What happened? How did I do? What makes me happy? What makes me sad? But your windshield is huge. Your future is so big and so bright. So optimistic kind of makes me realize that no matter what's happened in the past, I can keep my head to the sky as long as I look forward.
Love it. And if you could challenge our listeners to do one thing differently this week to step into their power and their greatness, what would it be?
Don't accept no for an answer. Oh, is that the one, or is it don't wait? Maybe I'll do two.
Yes?
Don't accept no for an answer. People will tell you no, and the answer is just maybe not now, or not this way, or whatever. Don't accept no. If something you want to do, go after it. The second thing that I would say is you've got to leap. You have to take the leap, because if you don't leap, you might never reach. So take that glass cliff, take the opportunities that are coming your way and leap for it, go for it, and know that there are men who may not be as qualified as you who are taking that leap, even if they're only 40% capable and ready. You, on the other hand, are 90% ready. Don't let that other 10% make you say, oh, no, I'm not ready. So make that leap. If somebody comes to you and gives you an opportunity, unless something's going on with your family or your five F's, you want to make sure that you leap for that opportunity and never doubt yourself.
I love that. And If there would be a message that you would like to leave for your grandson, and let's say that he would read this when he's going to be in college or on his, journey of adulthood, what message would you leave behind for him?
Wow. It's very similar to what I'm saying about never accept no. Never be satisfied with the status quo. If there is hunger, you've got to feed them. If there's a gap, you have to fill it. If there is illness, please cure it. If there's a good thought, I hope he'll share it. If there's a bad word, I hope he never repeats it. If he's got life, I want him to live it. If he's got purpose, I want him to achieve it. And if there be wisdom, I hope he will always receive it. I want my grandson to always find a way to win.
Wow, how beautiful. So inspiring.
Thank you. That's my grandson.
Daphne, how can people learn more about your work? And I encourage everyone to get your book. But please share with our audience how they can learn more about the wonderful things that you're doing every single day.
Well, I would love for everyone to, and I can send you a picture that has some of these things on there, Dr. Anzea. But join my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel that I started several months ago, and it's called The Winner's Circle. The Winner's Circle. You are welcome to follow me on LinkedIn, and I'll follow you on LinkedIn, Daphne Jones. And my website is www.theboardcurators.com. That's the company that I run, the Board Curators. And my other website is www.daphneejones.com. So I have a few things going on.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. Any
Thank you.
final words of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience when it comes to living more joyfully and more purposefully?
Yeah, I think joy is much more intentional. Joy is much more long lasting. Happiness comes and goes in my belief. And as the word says, as the Bible says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And you always want to be mindful and aware that joy is coming. And so happiness comes and goes, certainly, but joy is something that is a spiritual thing. It comes from deep down within your soul, within your spirit, and not a whole lot can change that. There are times when you might be unhappy, but there should be very few times when you don't have joy. Seek that joy, go after that joy, chase that joy, and never give it up. It's important. And I think your health depends on it, your family depends on it. Everything that's important in life depends on your having joy, because that'll determine how you approach your life.
And on these beautiful words, Daphne, an immense thank you for bringing so much light into this podcast and into this world. Thank you. It's been an immense pleasure.
Thank you so much.